Today we're going to learn about The Little Match Girl, written by Hans Christian Andersen. And I'm going to go through this quickly, but I'd like for you to make sure you press pause and read every part of what is written here. Hans Christian Andersen was a Danish author, and he wrote many different types of texts, such as plays and novels, poems, but he's most popular for his fairy tales. The Little Match Girl is one of his most famous stories. He has had 3,381 works and it has been translated to 125 different languages. He often writes about lessons of virtue and resilience in the face of adversity or struggle, and it is also for mature readers as well as children. And so I want you to take a moment and do a little bit of research about this author. Tell me what happened to his parents, where did they live, what did they do for a living, and what did Hans do for money? So go ahead and take a moment, press pause, and do a quick research about this author. So Hans had many beloved fictional characters, and they often came from humble beginnings or origins, and they didn't have a lot. So he himself was born in a one-room house to a shoemaker and a washerwoman, and his father died at age 11. At age 14, he was determined to be famous and left home. He was often teased by his schoolmates for his awkward appearance, and once bullied by a teacher who told him that his writings were only fit for the trash can. Even through all of this, Andersen persevered and had a desperate devotion to become famous, and he did. He was known around the world as a genius of the literary fairy tale genre. Andersen's stories were steeped in melancholy and sadness and longing, and his characters also had the same humble beginning as he did. They often longed for love and acceptance into a higher realm of society and a more glorious existence, such as a mermaid who is pining for a human prince, or an ugly toad that travels from the bottom of a well to seek something higher. Andersen's stories featured personified objects such as needles, candles, and that had thoughts, intentions, and feelings. This is an example of one of his stories called The Fir Tree. This fir tree looked forward to being decorated as part of a Christmas celebration, and was very sad when her trimmings were stripped away. Andersen often had a keen eye for social pretensions and vanity when people care very much about the way they look. There's an example of a pea who smugly, conceitedly considered itself the most remarkable of its pod because it was about to burst after festering in gutter water. He wrote the story of the Emperor's New Clothes you might be familiar with. The Emperor was fearful and of being thought as stupid, but he allowed himself to be fooled and walked around with his new clothes that were actually non-existent. He often infused figures of traditional fairy tale with human weakness and strong personal emotions. A lot of Andersen's stories did not have a happily ever after. A toy soldier in the end of his story is reduced to a lump of melted metal, and that little fir tree was thrown into the fire. Rather than redeem his character's suffering by giving them love and riches, he shows how goodness and integrity can ennoble the last moments of a lonely, poverty-stricken life. The traditional fairy tale shows how bad luck can change into dazzling successes. Andersen, in contrast, portrays the luminous spirit dignity of even the most relentless ill fortune. So his famous genre is the fairy tale. And fairy tales are short story, and they have characteristics of typical folkloric fantasy. So you would see characters such as giants and dwarfs, fairies, mermaids. He also mentions an urchin who steals the slipper of the little match girl. So fairy tales often have magic and enchantments. A shooting star, memories like magic, and a concept of heaven can be thought of enchantments or beliefs. Now, a lot of fairy tales, like in Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, do not have the same happily ever after that you thought they did. They have often been changed to be sweetened for children. And so here are some 5 fairy tales that were a lot darker than you might have realized. So you can take a moment to watch this video. So we are going to read The Little Match Girl, and here's the link for the audio. So take a moment and please do that. Stop the video so that you can complete that assignment. So I would like for you to go through these slides that talk about the different visions that the little match girl witnessed. And I want to know if you like the ending of this very, very sad story. Why would Andersen have made such a sad ending? So he believed this was a happy ending in this book, actually. To relinquish the suffering of a little girl to be joined with her one true relative and God. So she was no longer suffering. Many people don't understand why a fairy tale would have such a sad ending. Despite Andersen's obvious intentions, many translators and publishers of the tale have balked, were angry against this ending, and occasionally offered a happier ending, with the young girl being rescued by a family to be fed and warmed on New Year's Eve, with the implication that all would be well with her in the coming year. And so many people took his fairy tale and changed it to a happily ever after. So in Schoology, there are going to be some discussion questions that I'd like for you to answer. And then we're going to watch this video that they have made over The Little Match Girl, and then answer the following questions on comparing the video with the story. When you are done with that, I'd like for you to please read and listen to the first scene of Charles Dickens' The Christmas Carol. And we will be discussing that tomorrow. And that's all I have for you today, Gladiators. I hope you have a wonderful day.